Hey guys, what's growing? It's Heather at Bush Puppy Farm, and it's time for a July garden tour. So, we're going on vacation soon, which I'm excited about. So I wanted to give you guys a July garden tour. It's mid-July, and we'll show you where everything stands. I'll do a July farm tour in a separate video. But let's start with this bed right here by our garage. So I've given this bed some TLC this year. It got nothing last year and it looked awful last year, but we've got some gorgeous lavender here, which, oh God, it smells so good. I was sitting right next to it just a minute ago and it smells amazing. And the bees sure are loving it. The beehives are right there. So they have this little buffet for themselves. We've also got some Clarkia in here, which has been blooming and it's just starting to fade. Here's some that's still blooming here. We've got some penstemon. So this Clarkia and the penstemon, they are California natives, which is lovely to have. This back here is Nandina or heavenly bamboo, not native, and I hate it. And I would get rid of it, but it's like ivy. So at some point, right now it's holding the hillside because this is a pretty steep drop behind here, but I would love to get rid of it at some point. Euphorbia, that's still got the blooms on it from January. And then this is cottonwood right here. There's a cottonwood tree above us, way up there, and it has dropped its seeds and it's starting to grow. So we don't want this here, obviously, permanently. I've been cutting on it for using in bouquets because it's nice long stems for greenery, but that will have to come out too. This is a giant, actually it's like 3 different ones, manzanita. It's huge. When it flowers in the very early spring, it is one of the excellent sources of pollen and nectar for bees. And so again, it's great to have the beehives right there. Coming into the main garden, raised bed that we had garlic in, took it all out, and we have planted squashes. So you can see them starting, they have germinated, they're starting to come up, so that's great. I think by the time we get back from our vacation, this bed will be nice and full of the leaves from these squashes. These are winter squashes here. Here is a rogue blackberry vine from the creek bed, which is behind us here. I have to pull this out. This is a thorned one, and I'm trying to cultivate our thornless ones. Speaking of, we'll get to those in a minute. This bed over here, also winter squashes in these hills. And then there's arugula and different types of lettuces, and those have all germinated. Here's our persimmon tree, which I'm hoping, so these are the flowers here. I'm hoping that now that we have bees right on the other side of the fence, they'll actually get pollinated this year and we'll actually have fruit. This is more blooms than I've ever seen on it, so I'm hopeful. We have our asparagus bed right here. This is its very first year. We'll give it a chance to grow all year. Once everything dies back, we'll cut it to the ground, and we might have a couple of stems of asparagus in the spring, but otherwise we're going to let it keep growing, and then in year 3 we should have lots of production. Okay, so back here we have this gorgeous grape. This is a seedless red grape, and it's got lots of grape clusters on it. And actually what I need to do is I need to come in here and count how many grape clusters and remove some of them, because if you have too many, then it tends to, because if you have too many, then the grapes that you do get won't be as sweet. So you want to have fewer clusters, especially its first couple of years, so that the plant can put most of its energy into making those yummy and sweet. Now, blackberries. So we've got some ripe ones on here. I've just started harvesting these. I wait until they just come off really easily in my hand, like that. Super delicious. But we've got so many, and I'm kind of bummed because we're going to miss a lot of this because we'll be gone. So I'll either let the birds get it, or I will tell the pet sitter to to come on out and harvest what they want. I'm actually going to tell them that for everything in the garden, because if you leave some things on for too long, the plant will just stop producing. Depends on the plant, but yeah, so lots of yummy fruits. Okay, and then this mishmash bed still got some onions in it and they're actually starting to bulb up nicely. Planted way back in last winter. We've got some butter crunch lettuce here that we've been eating on. These are rogue potatoes that were left over, I guess, that I never got, and they popped up this year, so I'm gonna let those go till they're ready to be harvested. Got a tomato here, some peppers down here, and then the rest is climbing beans, and you can see they're starting to use their trellis. And then over here we have pepper plants, which are struggling. They're on the struggle bus big time. They look awful. This is brand new soil in here, and it's mulched to keep it moist. And so I don't think, it looks like a deficiency. So I'll try giving them yet more, another dose of fertilizer and see what happens, but not looking good. Over here, we've got some very pretty nasturtiums growing next to our cucumbers. This was a unfertilized cucumber here. That's why it turned yellow and it's coming off. This one hopefully got fertilized. These guys up here, same, because I love cucumbers. And then this guy here is a tromboncino. So I'm hoping that it will climb this trellis. I'm trying to train it to do that. Finally, back here, we're getting some growth on this. I think it's a yellow straight neck squash. This is also a yellow squash. We've already gotten one off of it, but these are much, much smaller. They're about 1/8 of the size they usually are this time of year. Again, cold temperatures. That's what happens when you don't get warm enough. In fact, we had 2 warm days this week, and then for the rest of the week, we're going back down into the low 70s, which, for humans is beautiful. Feels amazing, but for heat-loving plants, not so much. All right, pollinator garden. So this Spanish lavender is pretty much finished. That's the way it always does. I will come in here and deadhead so that it doesn't get super woody. The buddleia, I also need to deadhead. Buddleia is great because if you keep deadheading, it will keep producing. And you see how big that is. If you look back at our early March garden tour, you'll see that I had cut it almost to the ground, and this is what it does every year. Comes back, comes back, comes back. The roses I also pruned yet again because they've just gone crazy, which is great. They're climbing roses. They're supposed to do that. So, but I want to make sure that this pathway stays relatively open. Now here's one that I need to prune away, but it's got a bud on it. So I'm going to wait till it flowers and then we can get rid of it. Okay. So some beautiful penstemon here. And then again, the other side of the buddleia. This is a salvia. I think it might be Amistad. I don't remember. And of course there's no tag because that's me. This is all already bloomed. We've got more Clarkia here and penstemon, and there's some yarrow back there. So normally, during the day when it's a little warmer, this is just buzzing with bees, which is the whole point of this pollinator strip. Okay, so this pear tree always puts on lots of growth. We've only ever had some pears on it once, and they were all aborted before they got big. It's got rust, and there's also another type of pear disease. So technically the treatment for that is to cut off all of the branches that have this. That will be a whole lot of the plant. So I'm always loath every year to do that because it removes so much of the plant. However, it is summertime and it is okay to do summer pruning on these. So I think that's what's going to happen. This apple, which is a Fuji, no apples on it, but it's looking good. It's putting on its growth. Yeah, it's fine. I'm not thrilled with the shape. but I think I'm not going to do any heavy pruning on it because I would like to get some fruiting next year. Same with this guy. This shape is a little bit better. It's a little more vase-like. Originally, when I put these in here many years ago, I was going to do espalier, and I started training them that way, but then, you know, life happened. So that's why you'll see a lot of the stems are off to the sides, but this one is taking more of a vase form with a central leader, and I'm okay with that. I do intend to keep them relatively short though, so that they don't shade out the garden behind it. Now, this apple tree, thank goodness, not only set fruit, but has kept it. It aborted, I think, only 2, and these, they're in no danger here. I don't need to thin them. We're in no danger of them getting too heavy for the branches because there's only 1 on each branch. And that one, I don't even know if it's gonna make it because it's bruised. So, that means 4 apples. But considering this has been here for a number of years, I actually transplanted it, moved it from this location right here over here last year, and it's still fruited this year. That's super exciting. So yeah, I think it's just gonna get to stay where it's at, and I don't even think I'm gonna do any pruning on it, although it, you know, you can see how it's growing into this one here, so I'll probably cut back some of these, but I don't wanna take too much because that'll take away fruiting spurs for next year. Okay, row crops. So you can see the Scabiosa are blooming. This right here is an evening primrose. It just popped in from the creek bed. It's pretty, so I leave it. I'll pull it up in a little while. I don't care if it goes to seed and drops seeds, not a big deal. But you can see these pincushion flowers, or Scabiosa. Look at the size of the head on this. Isn't that beautiful? This is Black Knight. It's just gorgeous. So they start like this, and then they kind of go into this form, and then they end up kind of here, and like this one that you saw down here. And then this is the seed head when it's done, which also can make a really interesting addition to bouquets. So we've got Black Knight, we have Fire King, so this is the red one, and then I think this is Fama White. This was a mix, obviously, that I put in here, and I love this blue one. Look at that, it's fluffy like a cupcake. So pretty. All right, so Scabiosa, which I haven't even really harvested on this year. And then this bed used to be dahlias, and it still has dahlias in it from last year, so they are starting to come up. It also is fruit trees here, which this was their very first year. I put them in the fall, and so they didn't produce any fruit this year. I didn't expect them to, but maybe we'll get lucky next year. We'll see. The dahlias, like I said, starting to bloom. I no longer have the tags on these, so I don't even know what they are, but that's okay. My customers don't care. You know, I just harvest them. I put in these pumpkins here, and again, staying really small. I don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully we get some heat and they will grow a bit. This one is actually doing okay. This one actually I did put a tag in. It is a Harvest Moon Squash. We're starting to get some blooms, but also aborted buds. So I don't know, we'll see. This is the only dahlia I remember the name of. This is Diva. She's not looking that great though. If you look real close, you can see that it's kind of hard with the sun, but these petals are usually not so striped like that. They're usually a solid purple, deep purple. So probably everybody could use a little bit of fertilization. I mean, the leaves are looking pretty good. Elderberry here. And then back here, we've got some escaped black lace flower, Daucus, and chickens. Hi ladies, what's up? I fed them some treats this morning, leftover cantaloupe and melon and salad from last night. But I haven't seen an egg yet, so I still don't know who laid it. But you know, they're just getting started, so. All right, this bed. I had no idea what this is, honestly. I guess I could Google it and figure it out, but it's coming up on both ends of the beds. So it's something that I originally planted, just don't know what it is. These squashes interspersed in here are, you know, they're not looking terrible, but again, not growing much. So I'm hoping while we're gone, we get some heat and they start to produce. So we've got another grape here, which I don't expect to give us anything for at least another year. And then this is a honey jar jujube. I've never grown this before. We're on the low end of its zone, but I'm fascinated. I actually have never even had jujube fruit, but we'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to learning all about this tree and this fruit. More squashes that I planted. I put them everywhere because I love them. And this year I'm struggling with them. Here's another grape. And then this trellis has been planted with dragon's egg cucumber and long bean Chinese red noodle, but nothing has germinated right here, which is really weird to me. It's been in here longer than anything else, so I don't understand. I might have to reseed. We'll see what it looks like when I get back. These Gold Rush bush beans have germinated. They are definitely getting attacked by something. And then I have a straight neck squash here that germinated, but there's others planted in here. Oh, here's one too. So yeah, we'll see. Corn. Don't remember this variety. Oswego Blue, looks like. And then our tomatoes. So we've got, I think this is a Celebrity Plus here. And we've got some Sun Golds. Well, this one's starting to blush a little bit. That's exciting. Hopefully before we leave, we'll be able to snack on that. And then we have Amish paste towards the end here. And then this still a flower bed, but I've pretty much stopped harvesting on most of it. So this Orlea I can pull out. And then this is Daucus chocolate lace flower again. Love this plant. I'll keep harvesting on this. So this is the tallest I've ever grown it. It's about 6 feet at least because it's well over my head. But then I've got weeds growing in here like this nasty thing that needs to come out. This Amimagus, pretty much done. You know, you'll see still lots of flowers, but they're all super short stems, right? So like that's nearly impossible to use. So it's time for that to come out. And then this is Queen Anne's lace. And again, still using it because look at the length of these stems. So pretty. But you can tell, look, if you look at the base, they need to be done. They want to be done. And remember, all of these were planted in October. So they have produced for a really long time. And they're exhausted. We've still got some Nigella coming up in here that I haven't really been bothering because it's kind of hard to harvest in the way this is right now because I didn't give them any support. Totally forgot to do flower support netting last year when I planted, which is so weird. All the straw flower. Definitely been harvesting on this stuff. Love it, love it, love it. And we'll dry any that I don't use, have been drying anything that I don't use in bouquets. Sweet potatoes, finally putting on a little bit of top growth, hoping that we're actually going to get a harvest out of these this time. Now I planted up this tub over here with sweet potatoes. And only 2 of the plants, well 3, there's one right here, survived. But you know, they're covered in dust from being near the chicken coop, so that probably has some impact on how much they can grow. These are like, that's a passion fruit vine, and what is this? Golden currant. So again, covered in dust from the chicken coop. But we'll see. I try to wash them off when I water these containers because you know you don't want too much dust settling on the plants or it impedes their ability to not only breathe but to take in nutrients and to photosynthesize. What's up, ladies? All right, final bed. We worked on this yesterday, and this is the feverfew that got left over because it will come back. You can already see some of the buds starting here. We've got the peppers that we just transplanted yesterday. I need to put some straw over those guys, but otherwise they're doing good. Statice. You know, this is the smallest bed of statice I've ever grown. It's normally a lot denser than this, but the birds annihilated a lot of it back in January. However, I'm still getting lots of stems, both here and at the farm, the status bed at the farm. I'm using them fresh, but I'm also drying plenty of them because they are great dried flowers. Bunch of sun golds that I still need to stake before we leave because they will put on a lot of growth hopefully while we're gone. And then I'm so happy, all of these are dragon tongue bush beans. Every one germinated, which is so great. Really happy about that. We've got white sugar corn here that all germinated and honey cream corn. So really happy about that. And then here is the selection. I think there's 4 different plants here, tomatoes, that I trellised up this teepee yesterday. Had to do it this way because the ground was too hard to get the teepee stakes in normally. And then we've got some corn here that is tasseling. And then down here is the start of an ear. So this is the corn silk. It's very fresh right now. Corn is wind pollinated, which is why you don't want varieties right next to each other that are different that bloom at the same time, because you'll get some weird crossbreeding. So these, I just did it. So the wind will shake the corn and drop the pollen from these tassels down into the silks, which then pollinate the corn. When you have corn that is missing a lot of kernels in it, you've got some kernels, but then it's missing others, that's generally because it wasn't completely pollinated. Each one of those silks represents a kernel. So you want all of those silks to be pollinated, and then you'll have a full ear of corn. Okay, another set of tomatoes. You see I popped them in everywhere around here, but that's kind of good. I like diversity in the garden. We've also got some, this is a Hungarian black pepper, which actually looks like it's flowered, which is great. There's another one right there, which also flowered. Again, having the bees nearby really helps. I've always had pollinators in the garden, but having my own bees right next to the garden, I think is going to make a difference this year. Okay, coming down the front walk, I apologize, the sun is in the wrong place for this right now, but you can see all of the azaleas are done. Everything has bloomed. Same with all the camellias, but there's so much new growth. Very deep green, which is lovely. So I do not prune my azaleas and camellias every year. It's usually every other year that I do it, and mostly to keep them a more manageable size. I pruned them last year, so they're just going to stay like this year. Now, in a couple months, moving right before our rains come, actually, I will add elemental sulfur to the soil so that they will stay green. This guy got pretty damaged. We had to have trenchless sewer work done, and you can see where they cut into the walkway here. It's actually amazing because they cut such a small piece. That's the new sewer, and it goes out to the street. But this azalea got pretty damaged during that, which is not surprising. You got like 10 people standing here and pushing a huge pipe through the ground. So I think, it's not dead, but yeah, I don't know. I might have to do a hard prune and see what happens, but it's not looking so great. Definitely not as lush and thick as the rest of these guys. So the azaleas are done, and I will, like I said, give them an iron treatment so that we can lower the pH of this soil and they won't turn yellow. This is a cotoneaster, just not planted, just popped in. Okay, so the other side of the walk, this area, which I've talked about before, but a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, we completely stripped this area because we were all lined along this brick walkway with those Loropetalum, but they were like 7 feet tall and huge. And then there was nothing behind them. It was just dead dirt. So we pulled those out. We brought in a ton of compost. We added a lot of big boulders like this one here. And then we started planting. And this is the result. It has totally filled in. It's wild and crazy, and I love it. So in the springtime, we have lots of bulbs that come up decorative narcissus and hyacinths and all that stuff. And hellebores. Speaking of, there's one right here, just kind of hanging out for the summer. And then as we move into spring and summer, we have all these gorgeous succulents. We've got heucheras in here, still some azaleas that were left over from before. And then things like thyme, creeping thyme, and artemisia. We've got varieties, different varieties of lavenders all through here. This is another cotoneaster that's just going crazy. In the back here, these tall shrubs are golden or silver sheen pittosporum. They are beautiful, nice and full, but also airy, which is what we love about them. That is a red twig dogwood, and behind it is a cercis, and it's doing okay, but it's been transplanted a number of times. So I'm hoping this year the deer will leave it alone and it'll come into its own. But this is another pollinator haven. They just love this area, and I do too. And it smells amazing in the heat of the day when you walk by and you can just smell all this lavender. It's amazing. The pink flower back here is sticky monkey flower, or mimulus. We've got some salvias in here, and just these big carpets of ground cover, which is what I wanted. I wanted this to just get reclaimed, and it's all on drip, so it doesn't get a ton of water, but that's fine because this area really is fairly drought tolerant. We've got a number of California natives in here. So we've got some euphorbia there that again bloomed back in January. And, you know, I will cut those off probably in a couple of months so that the plant can reset itself. We've got some really pretty succulents and flowers in here. And look, there's bees just going nuts on that thyme. So in a previous video, we planted up these containers, and they've already put on quite a bit of growth. I mean, something's eaten on them, but that's okay. So this coleus still looking good. It's still got flowers on it back here. This sweet potato vine is starting to get really big. And the heliotrope with that beautiful purple flower. Over here you can see it in the bright sun, but you can see how much growth they've put on. You know, that sweet potato vine will start to spill over the front. And just look at those flowers. It's just incredible. Okay, so this is the side walk that hardly anybody ever takes. Because, I mean, look, you know, we've got our gas pump and all the meters and like the power wall and everything. But this leads to our backyard on the side. This was covered in spring bulbs and it was glorious. And now we've got all of our lobelia and our lamium and just some of the native species that have taken over here underneath these redwood trees. Some heuchera that is getting dug up. Look at how high it's sitting above the soil surface. So I need to take that up, dig a deep hole and pot it in. And I didn't even come through and really pick up the detritus of all of the bulbs. It's been fine just to let it sit there and go back into the soil. This is another quote unquote weed, but you know what? It's similar to cleavers. It might be wood sorrel. Anyway, I think it's pretty. And this is not a production bed, a production garden. However, we are doing things like this, taking these guys out where we can. This is a baby oak tree. Don't want a new oak tree coming up right here. Here's another one. We actually need to come through here and do this along this entire hillside because shrubs is fine. Growing giant trees here, not what we want. Yeah, so this stuff, it's not cleavers because it's not sticky, but I think it's beautiful and I don't even care if I didn't plant it. What I want for this area is ground cover, and so that's what it's doing, and I'm happy with that. Okay, ignore that. That's going to the compost pile in the back, but this bed that we dug up and replanted, I love it so much. So the Sun Gold tomatoes coming along. There's some down here. which hopefully we'll be able to munch on before we leave for our trip. This planter filling in nicely, but look how much the ground cover has taken over, which is exactly what I wanted. We've got lavender in here, we've got yarrow, we've got weigela way back here, which will come into its own in the late fall. And then the sunflowers are out. This amaranth I did not plant, it just showed up here, which I think is very funny. But the different varieties of sunflowers is super enjoyable. And then this, same stuff in this pot, but it looks crazier because there's this. Okay, so this dahlia is a tuber that's way down somewhere deep in this pot. I've never been able to find it. It must be at the bottom, but it comes back every year. Never blooms for me though, so maybe this year. But the tomatoes are looking amazing. Container garden. The basil that I potted up the other day is looking great. I'm really happy about that. We're gonna get some nice harvest off that. Yarrow in this little pot, it's doing okay. This basil that I potted up, I've been actually cutting off of frequently, almost daily, because I've been making lots of pizza. And then these little mixture pots here, not very full, but cute. Lavender is still producing. Once this dies back, I will give it a haircut, not for a second flush, but to keep it from getting too woody. With lavender, if you cut into the wood, you won't get regrowth, you'll just have more wood. So I'll cut it back and probably to about right here, so that there's a little bit of green left on there, but that will still get more growth and not just wood. Macrophylla hydrangeas, which I haven't even bothered to deadhead. I probably should, but haven't. And then this is a Meyer lemon, which does have some little tiny ones on there. And then this is our key lime, which does also have some baby fruits on there. And another Meyer lemon, which actually, I don't know if there's any fruits on this one, but that's okay. I thought it had died over the winter and it looks beautiful. So strawberry tower, we've been pulling off of this for weeks. Herb tower, also been harvesting out of this as well. All right, cottage garden bed, nice and messy. Still lupine greenness here. And then we've got, this is Heals All or Self Heal. It just showed up. It's a ubiquitous herb. It's in the grass too. But we hardly have any grass left. It's mostly weeds, but that's okay. The pollinators definitely love it. And then all the seed pods on the lupines, crazy, right? Those will drop and we'll get more plants. We've still got some feverfew back here. This is a single variety, so definitely different from the one we had up front. Dusty Miller and some hyssop. No, that's Agastache actually. I did plant a couple of squashes in here. It's doing all right. Verbena and Gara. This is the white variety, and down there we have the pink one. We've got germander in here and streptocarpus, more verbena. We've got some columbines that are done blooming, so they're just greenery right now. Lady's mantle, whole variety of things. We've got some echinacea and blooming Dusty Miller. These irises are finished for the year. Look at that. Really pretty, right? I don't think Dusty Miller is usually allowed to go to flower. That's really cool to see. Some salvias back here, which haven't started blooming yet. And then this crazy back corner with the hollyhocks, the echinaceas. We've got some salvias back there, like a random dahlia, some buddleia, and again with the hollyhocks. Just so pretty. Okay, and then this bed, out of control, but I haven't been able to bring myself to cut it back because look at all the bees. They love it. This is a lamb's ear, super soft with lots of blooms that the bees love. So I'll cut it all back probably in August and make it ground level. We got some osteospermum there, and the roses are taking a bit of a break. They're still putting on growth, but they're taking a bit of a bloom break. We've got Limelight hydrangeas, there's one of them right there, one tall stem, which will actually get harvested when it flowers, and then it'll branch more next year. There's another one right here. Here's more limelight hydrangea, and you can see lots of beautiful flowers getting ready to come out. I hope that we don't miss those while we're gone, because those are a really important part of my bouquet year. Another limelight, more roses. You know, they're getting some rust and spots and stuff on them, but they're all right, and they're still producing more buds. Another limelight, and then these containers, strawberries, alyssum, and these beautiful clematis. Just such a stunning flower. So next year, oh, and I love the seed pods too. Those are really cool. So next year, these will be much more dense. But we've been harvesting lots of strawberries, and yeah, the clematis are done for the year. I'm not going to prune them this year because they are so small to begin with, but we'll get more next year. And the succulent garden, I haven't given it much attention this year, so there's a bunch of plants that need to be replaced, but it's still looking okay. And the nasturtiums in this pot, nasturtiums and jasmine, star jasmine on this trellis. And then these are the Fire Island hydrangea. Look at that bloom. Is that not crazy? It's the size of my hand. Huge. And finally, the containers outside of the greenhouse. All of these limelight hydrangea going to be blooming, hopefully not before we get back from our trip, because I want to use them in bouquets, but they're looking beautiful. And finally, in the greenhouse, there are still some things hidden here. I'm hoping I will have some time to go on and transplant some of these out at the farm before we leave in the next couple days. These are different marigolds that need to go in the ground. These are big enough now. These are zinnias, which are still pretty small, but I think I'm still going to try to transplant them because it will make life easier for the pet sitter to not have to water so much stuff. But some of these, like these are sunflowers, those can also go out. But this Covent Garden, I think, is going to have to stay here. Obviously not much with the Tulsi basil. So yeah, some of this will stay. As much as possible will get transplanted. So that's it for my July home garden tour. We'll be doing the farm tour in the next couple days before we leave. There's a lot to do out there. I need to rig up irrigation for the stuff that I've been hand watering, because while we're gone for 2 weeks, nobody will be there to water. And that is sunflowers and beans, and I definitely want those to continue to grow. Also, in the greenhouse there are the final set of lilies, the stargazers, and they'll be blooming soon, but while we're gone. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do about those yet. I might just, call some friends and say, hey, drop by, cut them all off and take them in if you want them, because they'll be too far gone when I get back to use some bouquets, and they're not ready yet, and I also don't have any place to take them right now because I'm done for deliveries for now and for harvesting for now. So until we get back from our trip. So thanks so much for hanging out with me today, listening to my ramblings. I'm gonna need to edit this a lot because I forgot names of plants, and I was just all over the place. Plus the camera kept overheating and I had to keep restarting. But thank you for staying with me. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and your garden is just exploding with goodness right now. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.